Hi, I'm Evelyn Orantes.
And I'm Joaquin Newman. Welcome to our home where we're beginning our Day of the Dead celebrations.
We'd like to take a moment at this time to acknowledge the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Loni Indians, whose land we live and celebrate Dia de los Muertos. We're getting ready for a Dia de los Muertos tradition. I was born in Guatemala and immigrated to the United States when I was 5. And in Guatemala, the tradition for Dia de los Muertos is to make kites or barriletes. And the barriletes, the idea is that you fly the barriletes to the heavens and send messages to the ancestors. And so this is a very literal interpretation of sending messages to the ancestors. But for the most part, it's the designs and the images that symbolize messages. And usually this is a very tiny, barrilete in comparison to what you would see in Guatemala, which is the size of our living room. And oftentimes made by a whole group of people. And then those barriletes are flown in the cemeteries, and different contests take place, like the biggest barrilete or the best design. And so it's a very important part of our tradition today.
Yeah. And as somebody like myself, I was born and raised in Oakland, California, to a Yaqui Mexica mother and a Swedish Scottish father. My traditions have been an amalgam of the things that I've learned from my elders, from my community members, and a big part of the Chicano tradition of reclaiming Dias de los Muertos as a powerful way for us to connect to our heritage and to our ancestry. And so here we're actually going to be sharing with you how we build our ofrenda, or our home altar, and sharing some of the items that we have on our altar with you. So if you look at our traditional altar, you'll see several items that are traditional, such as the copal, or the incense from the copal tree. The incense from the copal tree is used to invite your ancestors, the spirits that you want to have visit you at home, to your home altar, where you can provide offerings for them. And the offerings take many forms. The forms, the most prevalent one is water. You actually provide water for the spirits as they come back to your house, come back to your home altar to visit. Along with something to drink, you want to provide something to eat. So there are several items of food, such as pan de muertos, which is bread for the dead. It is something that is used quite a lot for many people. People can eat it as well as the ancestors as they come back to visit, as well as tamales or regular foods, and sometimes even fruit or other foodstuffs. So we'll have a lot of really beautiful things on the altar, as well as the calaveras de azúcar, or sugar skulls, which are used to symbolize the ancestors. Velas, candles, which light the way for the ancestors to come into the home. And last but not least, of course, are the paper flowers, or the flowers that you'll see. And the flowers, what we're going to show you how to make today.
Another element that we also include in our ofrendas are photographs of our dearly departed. And this is actually our ofrenda space year round. We actually have our ancestors with us year round to kind of guide us through life. And on my side of the ancestors, we have my abuelita Ana. And my abuelita Ana, what I got from her as a gift, I believe, is my love of baking and love of eating sweet things, which is not always a good thing. But I have very fond memories of being in the bakery in Guatemala and scraping off all the sugar from conchas, or little sweet breads, pan dulce, and getting in a lot of trouble with my grandma. And we also have my paternal grandparents, my abuelito Beto, who really instilled in me a sense of social justice, and my abuelita Tita, who every year for my birthday, even once I came to the United States, made me beautiful dresses with embroidery that always reminded me of where I came from, because Guatemala is known for textiles. It's known for its beautiful textiles. And I've included not only Guatemalan style tamales here, which look a little different than the ones you might find in Mexico, but not in southern Mexico. In southern Mexico, tamales are similar to the ones in Guatemala. But the textile included here is a mourning textile, and in addition to the kind of the colors that are more cool colors, and the blues and greens and purples, they also have this cool little figure that represents the person that's mourning. And so again, just a constant reminder of our indigenous roots and where we came from.
Yeah. And on my side of the ofrenda, I'll have my paternal grandmother Phil, who instilled in me a love of animals and for family and loyalty. And here, my grandfather, Francisco Frank Guzman, who was a boxer and instilled in all his descendants a fighting spirit and also a love of those less fortunate and a desire to help.
So now we'd like to share with you how we made these paper flowers that you see in our ofrenda. The paper flowers represent marigolds or cempasúchil, which is the Nahua word for marigolds. And I like having a combination of both real and paper flowers. The paper flowers never die, so you can have them as long as you like. But I feel like you need to have those real marigolds because the idea behind the real marigolds is that the color and the smell are what guide the spirits home. And sometimes you might even see people use the petals of a marigold leading from the street towards a window or towards a doorway to guide the spirits home as they're coming to visit for Dia de los Muertos. So I always think that's a very lovely tradition, and I've grown accustomed to liking the smell of marigolds. I didn't like them at first. For those of you who have smelled them, you know they're really strong smell. So we're gonna get into how to make them, and first I'm gonna go over really quickly all the materials that you're gonna need. And it's not a lot. We have two different kinds of colors, orange and yellow. Marigolds do come in these two colors. I provide the yellow because during Day of the Dead, which also coincides with Halloween, oftentimes it's hard to find orange. So I think you can go with either or. And if you can't find either one of those colors, go with any color. I think I don't think the ancestors are going to be that mad at you.
That's right.
But I also wanted to show you what a real marigold looks like here, and you could get a sense of the leaves. And if you sit it like right in the middle, you can see it's a little bit, the color is actually between the yellow and the orange. So in addition to paper, about 5 sheets that are cut 6 by 6 inches, you're going to need scissors, and you're going to need a couple of pipe cleaners. I have 2 different sizes here. One is cut in half, so this is basically half of this one. And the other one's longer. The shorter ones are usually what I tend to use to really maximize my pipe cleaners. But, sometimes you want to go with a longer pipe cleaner so that you can attach it easily to something. The other thing I wanted to point out that, let's just say you can't find pipe cleaners. Another thing you could use, this one was part of my cilantro bunch that I got in the grocery store. And this was another thing. So you can use the things that you find, these little wires that you find in your vegetables when you bring them home. And they could also serve as pipe cleaners. So Joaquin is going to walk us through the whole process of making the marigolds.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that, because I think one of the fun things is that you really can use the supplies that you have around you. I mean, these things are really great. The pipe cleaners are pretty easy to find. And the tissue paper is something that you can really get anywhere. One of the good things is to try to find ones that you can cut easily into 6 by inch squares. And I'm going to go ahead and start with the orange ones to make one of our first cempasúchil paper. And so 6 sheets are what you need. And then also make sure your hands are dry, not oily or have water on them, because it'll really mess up the tissue paper when you're doing it. So what you want to do is you're going to take it and you're going to do what's called an accordion fold. And the accordion fold is going to start with about, 3/4 of an inch on a fold to start. So you just do a fold, all 5 sheets of paper together, and then give it a nice crease from the center out. You have a nice crease and you have one fold. And you flip it over and you're going to go ahead and do it again. If your paper becomes misaligned, just kind of realign it again. You're going to do that. Fold it one more time, give it a nice crease. Fold it, flip it back over, fold it another time, give it a nice crease. One more time. As you notice, you get about 5 folds for that on this paper flower. So once you have that, you're going to have a nice little strip of folded paper, and next step is you're going to want to bind it in the middle. And so you do the binding by kind of pinching it in the middle, and you can take one of these nice pipe cleaners and just fold it right over the middle of it. And if I can hold on to it, once you fold it right in the middle, it'll start to cinch it. And you don't want to do it too tightly. You want to be able to have to manipulate the paper as it comes out. So right below the paper, go ahead and give the pipe cleaners a twist, like 1, 2, 3 times. So you have just a little bit of a tail right there, and you can wiggle it and it's not falling out. That's perfect. So you'll have this nice little strip. There you go. And you have this nice little strip. And the next thing is you want to make the profile of the paper strip, the tips, you want it to be like petal shaped. So right now it's just square or squared off So we want to make it a petal shape. You can do, easiest way is like a half circle kind of thing. And you just kind of cut all the folded pieces. And there you go. You just have a nice little rounded edge on that side. Do the same thing on the other side. And try to not take too much paper off, otherwise your flower will get smaller and smaller and smaller. So keeping as much paper as you can. And sometimes I even keep all these, paper scraps to make like a simulated marigold trail if I want later, or you can just recycle them. And so once you have that, you're gonna have this beautiful little rounded edged strip. And as Evelyn's showing you, you can actually go ahead and open it up to make it like a little bow tie. And once the bow tie is there you go. It's very fancy. You can wear it in your outfit. Once you open up and make your little bow tie, to keep it kind of open, you can kind of gently crush the ridges that have been made there to help it stay open. Because the next step does require you to kind of keep it open that way. And the next step is you're going to start gently peeling the leaves or the sheaves of paper towards the center in kind of like a cup shape. So you kind of gently peel the first layer up into the center. Into like a gentle cup shape. And yeah, exactly. It's good to see that the paper rips, but you can just, be careful with it as best you can. I have kind of, big fingers, but I can still do it. So if I can do it, anybody can. And so then what you want to do is once you get the first two sheafs of paper up, you then want to alternate. So go to the next one, you go back to the one you started with, and you do the same thing. You just repeat the process. It'll be 5 times on each side. And you rotate, you kind of pull the paper up towards the center, and you'll start to see the flower form right away. It just creates a lot of volume. The kind of wrinkles in the paper create the volume and the randomness of the petals, but the petals really start to take form too. You start to see them, right in the middle.
And the reason you don't want to just basically fluff up all one side and then the other is that it basically stays looking like a bow tie. Yeah. So it doesn't really give the shape of a flower, like with a little cup in the middle.
Yeah, you want to kind of interweave them on the edges. So yeah, and it's you want to do it with all of them, even the very last one. And I've seen people who do it like sometimes they'll get 4 pieces of orange paper and then 1 green one that they'll use for the very bottom as kind of like a simulated leaf. That's a fun way to do it too. You can also, if you're for other events and things like that, you can do cempasúchil or marigolds in many different colors. But for Dias de los Muertos, orange and yellow tend to be the traditional colors for that. And at the end, I kind of primp it a little bit to get it where I like. And look, it's a beautiful flower. Very nice, right? So one of the fun things is you can do this with a group of people, and you can do as many as you can. And sometimes we've done events where we try to do like 200 of these at a time, and it's really fun to do, and it's a great event.
All right. Yeah. So there you have it, paper flowers. And paper flowers are a great way to spend time with your family making something fun. You might just decide to make these paper flowers. Even if this isn't part of your tradition, this is a good thing to do. Just as a group, you can make flowers and then tell the stories of those people that you want to remember. There's this human impulse to really remember folks that are no longer with us. You might look around in your home. There might be a little corner where you have photographs and tokens of people that are no longer with you and on earth. We always want to kind of remember them and keep them near. So this is a good time of the year to really spend some time sharing those stories, making their favorite foods, playing their favorite music as a way of remembering them. Welcome back, or welcome, or
just continue.
Just continue. So now you have lots of these paper flowers, and we're going to show you a few ways that you can use them in your ofrenda. You can actually use several paper flowers to make an arco, or a marigold arch. And the marigold arch is a traditional element of an ofrenda. I learned from a community leader here, Ernesto Olmos, who's from Oaxaca and Mixtec, that the story behind the arco is really a reminder that we are part of nature. And like everything in nature, like the sun, for example, we have a journey in the day or in life and a journey in the afterlife. And so really the arco represents that journey of the sun, where it's traveling during its living. And then there's a symbolic and imaginary arco in the bottom that represents the journey to the afterlife. So that's a great way for you to envision how the arco plays a role in the Dia de los Muertos ofrenda.
And another representation that I've seen from the Mayan cosmology, that actually shows the arco, but in a different way, is the day and night paddlers as they take the young corn god into the underworld. So this painting is from a 13th century Mayan inscription, and it depicts a leader, Hunal, the young corn god, being taken to the underworld. So similarly to the arco, the path of the sun that goes from the heavens into the underworld, the day and night paddler are taking this ruler and the young corn god into the underworld and also to be reborn.
So in Guatemala, where the indigenous groups are Maya, the belief is that the underworld is called Xibalba. And in the Aztec or Mexican tradition, the afterlife is called Mictlan. So there's a couple of different interpretations of that in our indigenous ancestors' views. I want to show you today how to make a marigold arch, which is one of the things that you see in a traditional Dia de los Muertos ofrenda, like you see here. There's several ways you can do this. When we saw the arches made in Mexico, in Oaxaca, when we traveled one year for Dia de los Muertos, we noticed that they used sugar canes and just tied them at the top to create the arc. But we also saw them, like squares. So like sometimes it's hard to find a way to bend, two things to create that arch. So you can make them into squares. I don't think you have to be too fussy about it. I think it's going to look beautiful either way.
We even seen some that were like triangles, right?
We saw some that were triangles, and so they're going to look lovely regardless. So how I made ours is that I did use 2 bamboo sticks, and I was lucky to find a bamboo stick that could bend in the middle. So I'm going to pull this out so I can show you a little better how I constructed this. So, Joaquin's going to help me out here. So if you notice, what I did is I had 2 green bamboo sticks. So that's what made the 2 edges. And at the center, I found another bamboo stick that could bend a little bit. So I'm going to give you a closer look here. If you notice, what I used to attach them was just really gaffer's tape. And I don't think you have to be too fussy about, this is what happened to me. I got too fussy and I broke my center arch bamboo stick. But you don't have to get too fuzzy, because if you do what I did, usually when you wind up attaching the flowers, they actually help you create that arch or the shape of an arch. So I, in addition to the paper marigolds, also use these little palm leaves. And the palm leaves, you can find them at a craft store. You can find them at a party supply store. Sometimes you might find them in the areas where you get party supplies to have like a luau themed party. These work wonders to kind of fill in the space and also break up the marigolds, like make them pop a little bit more. So basically, all I did is I used the actual marigolds, as you see here, to attach not only the marigold itself to the arc or the arco, but also the greenery. And so that's all I did. So you see, here's the thing. Here's the stem of the palm. And all I did was then attach the palm. So this is an instance where you might want to have the longer stems when you make your marigolds, because as you notice, it's kind of not the easiest thing to kind of twirl and kind of secure them onto the bamboo if they're really short. And if you get them too long, like here, they don't really show, but if you wanted to, you can always trim them once they're up in your arc. So the other thing that I did to kind of secure my arc is I had pasta and I saved the jars. This is an old pasta jar with pasta sauce in it. And then I found I had these aquarium rocks that help kind of weigh down the base of what's going to become my arco. So that's all you need. If for some reason you don't have aquarium, use any stone. You can use stone from your backyard, anything that's going to get.
Pots too, right?
You can also, like Joaquin was saying, you could also use pots. I started using the pots when my arc was bigger, and then I broke the middle, like I said. So this is a great way to weigh down your arc and create the base. So all you have to do is have your base here. And if for some reason you don't have pretty rocks, basically just like use some tissue paper to wrap the base, and then you'll be able to basically camouflage what you think is not as pretty. So then there you have it. That's how you make your Dia de los Muertos arc. And it's not as hard as it seems. But again, use stuff around your house you don't have to have bamboo sticks. You can use branches. You can use anything that's handy. Again, you want to create that arch. And I even think it looks kind of cool when it's bare and maybe just a little bit of flowers here and there. So have fun. Hopefully your ofrenda this year will be graced with the Dia de los Muertos arco. All right, so now you've made lots of these paper flowers and you're wondering, what am I going to do with all of them? So one of the things you can do is, as you get ready to celebrate Dia de los Muertos, you might want to start getting your outfit on and get ready to strut your stuff with your family. It might be even fun to do a little fashion show with Dia de los Muertos fashions if you're so inclined. One of the things that I like to make is these crowns for Dia de los Muertos, and I had a little butterfly that's like flying off here. But basically, these crowns are actually incredibly easy to make. What you're gonna need is several paper flowers. You're also gonna need, I think for the size of my head, about 4 is fine. You're also gonna need one of these headbands, and I got these like at a drugstore. So they came in 2 colors. They came in the brown that I used here, and they came in the silver color. I think it's just whatever your preference is. And you might even have some around that you don't use and might want to do some recycle or upcycle with. So all you're gonna do, this is the magic. Basically, all you're gonna do is gonna take your paper flowers, and you're gonna twist the stem, the pipe cleaner stem, onto them, and there you have it. You could be done with this. Yep. You could just do this, and you're done.
There you go.
Ta-da! Or you can, if you want to go more flowers, you just keep attaching them, and keep attaching them one at a time. Or you can even do 2. I think it looks pretty with 2 as well. And so you keep doing that until you get to the 4. So it looks like this. And then I started embellishing a little further. So I wanted to add a little monarch here that represents the returning souls for Dia de los Muertos. So this is what you could be wearing for your Dia de los Muertos celebration. If this is a little too much for you, you can go a little more subtle, and just using a bobby pin, you could just basically attach the flower to your hair.
For gentlemen too.
For gentlemen too. Another thing you can do is you can use your paper flower as a boutonniere.
Yeah, you can put it here on your lapel. If you don't have a pocket or a buttonhole, you can use a little tape or a safety pin.
A safety pin is a good way to go. With the longer stems, you can even use it like a little bit like a corsage, like a bracelet. So there's lots of ways you can use it. And even, so let's say you made this in a different color, you can also use it as a gift wrapping bow. So like if you're gift wrapping a present and you don't have any bows or anything to kind of decorate it, having a pretty marigold colored or any color flower here can really finish off your gift and make it and be a nice addition to your wrapping paper. Yeah. So again, lots of ways of using paper flowers, and again, they could be used year round, the same technique, different colors. Hope you get to try out some new styles for Dia de los Muertos this year.
That's right.
Enjoy.
Thank you.